Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Inside Injuries Week 5 podcast for the NFL. We will be addressing some of the issues with some of the injured players and whether or not they're going to be playing this week and what kind of value they may have. And we'll also take a look at some of the questions that you've submitted through our Twitter account, which is at Inside Injuries. And, of course, you can find us on the internet at InsideInjuries.com, where you can get the inside edge on injuries around the NFL. With me today is Virginia Zakis. Virginia, how are you doing today?
Doing good. It's been a busy week once again.
Yeah, the injury rolls. I was looking at a list of some of the injuries around the league. It's incredible how many players are actually on the injury list.
Yep, and lots of top players as well. So lots to get through.
Yeah. All right. So the guy who's at the top of our list this week is Leonard Fournette. Everybody's sort of waiting to see when or if Leonard Fournette is ever really going to be fully healthy. We got a glimpse of him in one game, and he wasn't around for long. Is he ever really going to be healthy? And what can we expect going forward? Is he going to be an injury risk for the rest of the season?
Yeah. So Fournette entered the season an elevated injury risk, mainly because of his issues with foot and ankle injuries last year. And then, of course, he quickly hurt his hamstring. He missed 3 weeks originally, came back, of course, last weekend and aggravated his hamstring again. He underwent an MRI, which showed that the strain is not any worse than the original one, but 3 weeks wasn't enough the first time around. So that means this time he really should sit out at least 4 weeks. If he doesn't, he's going to be at a very, very high risk of re-injury. We see time and time again how difficult hamstring strains are to fully recover from. A lot of players get back to, 80 to 90%, but getting back to 100% and getting it fully healed is the hardest part, and it can take months. So I think we probably won't see Leonard Fournette hopefully until November. After that, he'll still remain at an increased injury risk. I think he can have some good weeks in the second half of the season, but it would not be surprising at all if he picks up another injury at some point.
Yeah, at this point, he's down to RB3 on the depth chart, and it's looking more and more like it's going to be T.J. Yeldon for quite some time. I like Yeldon. He's not a great running back. I mean, he's had a couple of good games. He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry right now this season so far. He's never going to put up huge numbers, although I really like his matchup this week. And I would definitely have him active. He's going to be playing against, I think I'm trying to remember who he's playing against this week. It's a good matchup for them, though. And I would definitely have him in there for this matchup this week. I think he's going up against, was it San Francisco?
God, that sounds right.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I think it's San Francisco. Anyway, no, it's the Cardinals. That's it. I'm sorry. It's the Cardinals. And this is a team that has given up touchdowns in bunches. I would definitely have him in there this week. All right. Let's move on. Will Fuller. Are we going to be seeing him this week? And what's his outlook for the rest of the season, too?
Yeah, so I kind of can't believe it, but it sounds like he's going to suit up this weekend. He had hamstring issues last year. He missed the first game of the season and a lot of training camp with a hamstring issue, aggravated it this weekend. They originally said that he could have gone back in if they needed him. Then they kind of backtracked a little bit and said, nah, he probably wouldn't have played. Even if this is just a little bit of tightness in his hamstring or a very mild strain, there's no way he should see the field this weekend. Especially a speed guy like Fuller, I think it's really going to affect him if he plays. And don't be surprised if he aggravates it, makes the injury worse, and ends up missing multiple weeks. And unfortunately, this is something that I think we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the entire season and all of next season, even if he makes it through the rest of this year without any problems. He'd been limited at practice the last few weeks, which is a clear sign that his hamstring was not 100%.
Right. And by the way, the Jaguars are playing the Chiefs. So once again, the Chiefs are the one team that has given up the most points per game on average, the most fantasy points per game on average to running backs. They're giving them somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 some odd yards per week on the ground to teams. So you got to have Yeldon in there this week. How to correct that?
To that, I think Yeldon's ankle should be okay by this week. Still something to keep an eye on, but shouldn't be a concern going forward.
Yeah, he's typically played through injuries. I mean, I realize that's not always a great thing, but I don't think you really have to worry about Yeldon at all this week. All right, getting back to the Houston Texans though, and whether or not having Will Fuller or being without Will Fuller would hurt Deshaun Watson. I don't think so. They've got Kiki QT, who made his debut last week. He had an incredible game. They targeted him 15 times. He made 11 receptions for 109 yards. Didn't score any touchdowns, but he showed them that he's not only good as a WR3, he's a great replacement for Fuller. He's a real dynamic player, and I think if he's available on your waiver wire this week, he's somebody that you've got to pick up and add. And I think even when Fuller comes back, I think QT is going to have value. They really liked what they saw from him last week, and I see that the Houston Texans are going to continue to utilize him in their game plans, even when Fuller returns. All right, moving on. Andrew Luck. A lot of talk about Andrew Luck this so far. And, of course, he's going to be playing tonight against the Patriots, a short week. It was definitely – I watched some of the Colts game last week. He was able to make one Hail Mary throw, was able to throw the ball about 60 yards, but came up short of the end zone. How is his arm strength looking to the inside injuries crowd? And is he going to be 100% this season at any point?
So his arm strength is definitely improving. Just watching week 1 compared to this past week, I think he also threw, what did he have, like 60-something pass attempts. So I definitely think he's improving. I don't think he's 100%. Honestly, he might not be 100% till next season, but he's getting close. He's becoming more and more like the Andrew Luck we used to know. I also think there's still a little bit of risk with his shoulder and with his biceps, despite the team trying to say that he really is fully recovered from all of his shoulder problems. But he's becoming someone that you can trust. I think he's startable every week until he gives us a reason at this point not to trust him. I think we do for the rest of this year. I think we'll slowly start to see him test longer balls down the field. We haven't seen too much of it yet. Like you said, it's kind of been more dinky little passes. But the fact that he even threw 60-something passes, I think is a good sign that his shoulder is, fairly durable and can handle a heavy workload. Now, taking big hits, falling hard on his right side, anything like that, that's probably going to affect him more than, the average healthy quarterback. So it's something to watch.
Yeah. And thinking about the rest of the Colts players, let's start with the backfield. The backfield is a dumpster fire this season. I mean, their top rusher right now is Nyheim Hines. 18 rushes for 54 yards so far, and one reception. 22 receptions on 26 targets for 119 yards and 2 TDs. He's good out of the backfield as a pass catcher, but as a runner, he's just not all that terrific. Jordan Wilkins hasn't been much. Only 38 rushes for 136 yards, averaging 3.6. I really don't like Wilkins at all. I think Nyheim Hines is the guy that you got to own. I don't know when we're ever going to see Marlon Mack. Do you have any information on Marlon Mack at all to share?
After he re-aggravated that injury, I think we showed he needed another 4 weeks, and I know that he's still a high injury risk. So he's one of those players second half of the season, if he can get healthy, yeah, I can see him being a big contributor. But at least for the next few weeks, I don't think we're going to see much from him.
Yeah, I'd really love to see him get out there. He has run the ball 10 times for 34 yards. Not bad. But I don't think we've seen what Marlon Mack can really do yet. It'll be interesting to see when he finally gets healthy and gets on the field. But until he does, I don't really like the Colts backfield at all. And as far as the receivers go, Hilton's been okay, but he's been playing hurt. He's out for tonight, not going to play. That leaves them with guys like Ryan Grant, who's got 18 receptions for 188 yards and a touchdown. Zach Pascal, 8 receptions, 77 yards and a touchdown. And then, you're talking about 4 stringers like Chester Rogers, Marcus Johnson. None of these guys are really, terrific fantasy plays. I don't like them tonight against the Patriots at all. I really wouldn't start any Colts players at all tonight against the Patriots. And that includes Andrew Luck. I wouldn't start him at all. I wouldn't start him tonight either. So, rest of the season, I like T.Y. Hilton when he's healthy. And the more healthy that Andrew Luck gets, the more valuable that Hilton becomes, as long as he can stay healthy. But it may be a while, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, and also thinking about tonight's game, I think we should mention Gronk. He hasn't practiced. I don't know if he's practicing today. We haven't heard anything out of Foxborough yet as far as the practice reports go. But is this ankle going to be a lingering problem for the rest of the season? I know that getting information out of Foxborough is almost nil. But what do you have?
It looks like this is a mild ankle sprain, but because he keeps trying to play through it, he's causing it to linger. If he were to just shut things down for a week or two, he'd probably be fine. The good thing here is, while playing tonight isn't good for week 5, it's good because he's going to have 10 days to recover instead of just 7. And those extra days really can be very beneficial for something like this. So if it's a mild ankle injury, I think by next week we should see a huge improvement from him, but wouldn't be surprised at all if he's on a snap count tonight. Maybe they decide to just limit him to, red zone plays or just, the most important plays, really pick and choose when they use him.
I'm not even sure. I have to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to play. I have a funny feeling they're going to let him sit. They've got enough weapons for the Colts. They're going to be running the ball hard against them. I can see them using Sony Michel and White out of the backfield again heavily like they did against Miami. And I don't think they're going to need Gronk all that much, and I would be really surprised if he actually plays tonight. I have a funny feeling he's not going to play. Well, we'll see. All right, moving on. Joe Mixon. There's a lot of speculation about whether or not he should return this week, whether he's ready to return this week. A lot of people saw him running around on the field last week, jumping into, victory piles and celebrations and mixing it up with other players on the field, even though he wasn't suited up. And they're taking that as a sign that he's ready to go and he's ready to run. But there's a big difference between running in a straight line and jumping on another player, and running and cutting on a field when guys are trying to kill you. When should we see Mixon back if it's not this week? And if he does play this week, what can we expect from him? Is he going to be effective?
So we're showing a 6-week optimal recovery time, which puts him at a healthy to return date around week 8. Definitely do not think he should play this week. Next week would also be a risk. When initial reports came out that it was just a cleanup procedure, we gave him a 3 to 4 week optimal recovery time, but then he admitted that he actually had his meniscus trimmed as well, and that's what took it up to a 6+ week recovery time. We're getting a lot of heat for saying he should sit out that long, but medically, that's how much time his knee needs to really heal. I think he sounds truly questionable for this weekend. Unfortunately, because of their backfield right now, I think if he is active, I think he'll play a lot, which is not good for him. But again, if he can make it to week 8, week 9 without any setbacks, he should be good to go the rest of the season. And I don't think he's going to have any lingering issues with his knee.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people should think about is, comparing Mixon's injury and surgery to someone like Sony Michel,
yep,
who actually had a very similar type procedure. Is that correct?
Yes. Sounds very similar.
Yeah, so, Michel was out for the entire preseason. So he missed, 4 weeks of the preseason. And then he was a scratch in game 1, used a little bit in game 2. In game 3, they actually had him out for a couple of package plays. He was on for a few sets of snaps, but he really didn't play all that much. It wasn't until week 4 that they really turned him loose. And that right there, that was right. So that's 7 weeks of recovery time. So that's what you really got to think about when you're thinking about Joe Mixon. And looking at some of the other players on Cincinnati's team, specifically Giovanni Bernard. I'm not sure that Bernard is going to play this week. We don't know if he's been practicing today, but we know he hasn't practiced yet.
Yeah, didn't practice today.
He did not practice.
He did not.
Okay, so I think there's a good chance that he does not play if Mixon does. We'll see how that plays out. We're not going to know really. Probably it's going to be a game time decision on both players. If Mixon is active and Bernard is also active, I'm not sure that I would start Bernard, especially since he's not completely healthy. If they're going to put Mixon out there, I think they're going to utilize him to the fullest because they really don't have much else in the backfield after him. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't like either player this week as far as starters goes, just because we just don't know how effective Mixon's going to be as a runner. So I would not start Mixon at all unless you have absolutely no other option. And then even then, I think I wouldn't count on anything more than a flex play. All right, moving on. Devonta Freeman. It's a lot of talk in Atlanta about Freeman or Coleman being let go. I don't know if you've heard that down there. I saw it in a couple of different places. But is Freeman ready to come back? And is he going to be an injury problem for the rest of the season?
So when he got hurt in week 1, we gave him a 4-week optimal recovery time, which means, yes, we think he's ready to return by week 5. Now, he was a high injury risk starting the season because of his knee injury last year. It was a pretty severe PCL and MCL sprain. The team has all along tried to downplay his injury right now, but we've been calculating a grade 2 sprain, which is a moderate sprain, possibly to the MCL. So more than likely the ligaments in his knee are stretched out just from multiple knee sprains, which leaves him at a much higher risk the rest of the season of injuring his knee again, or suffering another related lower body injury because he's trying to overcompensate. So it's a complicated answer. It's like, yes, he is healthy enough to return tonight, but there's still a lot of risk, and there's going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and as far as starting him goes, I'm not sure that I would start him unless I really had to. Although the Falcons are playing the Steelers, whose defensive line has been suspect. They've been able to run on the Steelers. Although I think this is actually going to be much more of a passing game. I really like Matt Ryan this week. I've got him ranked third among quarterbacks this week in his matchup against the Steelers. Their secondary is really suspect, much more so than their front four. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I really like Julio Jones. I think this is going to be a week where he really takes off, but I do not like the Falcons' backfield at all. I don't think I would start Freeman if I didn't have to. And I'm very curious to see if either Freeman or Coleman ends up being released or traded. There's a lot of rumor going around that that's going to happen. All right. That's all we've got for you for this week, the Week 5 Inside Injuries podcast. I want to remind you that we are at InsideInjuries.com, and we welcome your questions at any time on Twitter. You can send them to @injuries.com. I'm sorry, @InsideInjuries. You can also send them to me at Tim's10s. And Virginia, you've got a Twitter account as well?
Yep, @VZakis.
All right.
ZAKIS.
Excellent. All right. That's all we've got for you. Thank you very much, Virginia. We will be back next week.
Thanks, Tim.